Hello. This term, Sade Sati, is something that even those who think astrology is nonsense have heard about. So, where is Sade Sati observed from? Sade Sati is observed from the moon chart. Sade Sati is when Saturn nears natal moon. Mind dislikes reality. Wherever our natal moon is placed, when transit Saturn moves one house ahead, behind, or over it, we refer to that as Sade Sati. Yes, our soft mind, which is used to being carefree, doesn't like it when it faces harsh reality. Many people emerge stronger during this time. They came out as stronger persons. Some say that these 7.5 years made me a human being. Some say, for me, it was the toughest time. Your current dasha, everyone's experience varies. Where are the lordships of Saturn and the moon in the chart, and where are their placements? So everyone has different experiences. All the points we are discussing are based on the moon chart. Yes, the transit from the moon chart is very important, and most books talk about this. But isn't there any importance of Saturn's transit from the ascendant chart? In fact, I would say it has even more importance. If the transit of Saturn is bad or provides toughness from the perspective of the moon, then how should we observe it? From the ascendant? Wherever there is action on a physical level, any impact will be felt at your core level. This will transform time. This is a time when real drama unfolds. This is the time when you have to face challenges head on, where there is no escape route. This is transformative. From all these words, you must have realized that Saturn's transit from the ascendant is the most challenging or the most difficult, and it should definitely be observed. Not just that Saturn's transit from any house or lordship in the ascendant is not considered good. There are also some other terms and conditions related to this. I mean, which other houses does Saturn affect when Saturn transits through any house? What are its further conditions to justify that this transit can be the worst? You will never overlook this transit and will definitely see the challenges to indicate the time. Let's get started. So, why are we only discussing Saturn's transit from the moon chart? Today, we will talk about the importance of Saturn's transit from the ascendant, as Sade Sati is the most discussed topic. These are 7 years when Saturn transits the moon's house. When Saturn gives a reality check to our sensitive emotional moon, it has to show its strength or resilience. If there is life in the moon, then it talks about strength in adversity. Otherwise, they definitely teach or show some lesson. The natives ultimately have their good moments, provided Saturn is the key planet in your horoscope. Now let's talk about how to observe Saturn's transit from the ascendant. So, when we are talking about Saturn's transit from the ascendant or directly discussing external circles, sciences, and situations that karmically activate any house or house lord, when Saturn transits through any house, house lord, or significator, it creates a danger zone. The more facts you gather, the more troublesome it becomes for that house. I say it again. Let's say Saturn is transiting through the eighth house from the ascendant to the eighth house, and it is also transiting in the eighth house from the sun. So we can say that from the ascendant and the Kalpurush chart, which signifies the ascendant, Saturn is transiting through the eighth house from both the sun and the ascendant. So our health can be affected negatively, and Saturn can bring you difficulties. Saturn brings challenges. When Saturn, due to its significations, brings you difficulties, transformation challenges, or adverse situations in that particular area, because it is the eighth house from the ascendant or the significator of the eighth house, it can create issues in that specific area. Now, not only the eighth house, but wherever Saturn aspects, that position will also face difficulties. It won't be understood. Let's discuss this more detail. For example, let's say Saturn is transiting through the sign of Taurus. So, this sign, where does it transit from? It transits from the sixth house to the eighth. All right, Saturn is transiting through the sign of Taurus. And since it is transiting from my ascendant, so that is the transit from the sixth house to the eighth. So I place the sixth house in the red zone. Now, if Saturn is in Taurus, where does its third aspect go? It goes to the third house, which is in the sign of Cancer. This house, where is it? Transiting from, this is my house. From this house, I also place the eighth house in the danger zone. Now, where is Saturn giving its seventh aspect? It's giving it to the seventh house. The seventh house is the eighth. The 12th house is the 8th from the 7th, so the 12th has gone into the danger zone. Saturn is giving its aspect to the 10th house. Saturn's transit makes the 3rd, 6th, 8th, and 12th houses risky. In short, wherever Saturn is transiting, the 3rd, 6th, 8th, and 12th houses go into the danger zone. Not just the placement of Saturn, but also the aspect of Saturn from where it becomes the eighth is not very fruitful for that. All right. Now what are its conditions? Many houses face this issue, but not all will have problems. Is the troubled house shown in our chart? If yes, Saturn will impact. The house whose weakness we are talking about, which has come into trouble and gone into the danger zone, is it also affected in our chart? If affected, Saturn hits that house. Activation may show results. Bad Saturn transit could lead to negatives. The second thing is if the house is activated by the Mahadasha or Antardasha, then there is a chance we have received results from the house. Now, if Saturn is transiting badly from there, it could lead to negative results. And if there is any combination or promise formed, then we should definitely pay attention to it. When Saturn is entering the eighth house, it can go into the maximum factor from the houses, from the Lord of the house, and from the significator. If it is entering the eighth from any two of these, then we know it might be difficult. Then the third point is when Saturn is going into the eighth house, does it hold any enmity towards the house from which it is giving the energy of the eighth, the transformative karmic energy? If it does, then yes. And while transiting, if it is meeting harsh planets on its own, for example, let's say Saturn is transiting from the sign of Leo for Taurus rising, and that falls into my ninth house, and the sign of Leo already has some harsh energy or bad yoga associated with it. Now, since Saturn's transit is from my ninth to the eighth, and it is already touching a bad yoga, now it will become more difficult. So keep these conditions in mind before saying that Saturn's transit is going badly from the ascendant. We are talking about many houses, so we will definitely understand this through examples. Look at this chart. In this chart, when Saturn is transiting in Aquarius, I am talking about the current situation, specifically about the years 23 and 24. In 23, they had this time period of Mercury and Saturn, time of Ketu in Saturn. So when Saturn is in Aquarius, this payment, Saturn's transit, is starting from their fifth house. All right, so first it comes to my mind that this might not be a good time for their children. So what are our conditions? The houses in the chart are already weak. The Lord of the house is weak. And according to the Dasha, it is activated, and it is going through the maximum factor. So I have to ask, is there any problem arising in your fifth house matters? We also look at it from other angles. So this placement of Saturn, the transiting placement, is starting from the fifth house. Now, if Saturn is aspecting the third house, then from where is it going into the eighth? That placement is from the seventh house, where Saturn's aspect is going. Now, after discussing their third aspect, let's talk about the seventh aspect. So, the seventh aspect came, and their sixth house is where it is starting from. It's starting from the 11th house. So, wherever I have placed the red dots, they are entering the danger zone. Wherever I have placed the yellow dots, they are going into the respect zone. Saturn is going through the ninth house, and our second house is also starting from Saturn. According to the transit, my second house, then the third house, seventh house, and 11th house are all entering the danger zone. Now, let's talk about Mercury and Saturn. What does the dasha want to say by itself? And the house that I am talking about being in the danger zone, is it activated? When we talk about Mercury and Saturn, the seventh house is completely activated because Saturn is looking at the seventh house from the third, dust, and the seventh lord is Mercury, which is in the sub period. Now I need to see if Mercury is afflicted in the chart. Yes, Mercury's placement is not very good. It is in the seventh sign of the Kalpurush chart, reflecting from Rahul, and in the chart's seventh house, there is a debilitated Venus. And now we are talking about how this time period may not be very good for our seventh house matters. So, when this time period came, now it is activated, and Saturn's transit is not going well from both the seventh house and its significator. It is not good from both the house and the significator. So I asked them if there are any issues in their marital life. You can extend this beyond just issues in marital life. This can also manifest in such a way that the wife's health is not good. She may not be feeling well. It doesn't necessarily mean that there will be direct issues between the husband and wife. If there are problems in your seventh house, then those problems can manifest in your life in some way. So, of course, my question to them was, when I saw the sixth effect of the seventh card with a debilitated planet in the seventh, how is your wife's health? Is your relationship not very strong at this time? So they told me that there is a conflict between my mother and my wife in our house. But at this time, there are some ongoing disputes regarding property disputes and property separation, which is causing a bit of distance, or as you said, differences of opinion between us, and we are facing some difficulties. All right, seventh house confirmed via Dasha. Check Saturn's transit on the 11th. Now we will discuss weather. The transit of Saturn can be just as deadly for the 11th house. So the 11 flood is sitting in the 5th, and being a goat is looking back at the 11. And since Saturn is the lord of Mahadasha, it is activated. But they said that no, they are not facing any significant issues related to the 11th house, and their business is running as usual, on and off. Now, I further confirmed with them about the fifth house matters, asking if there are any differences of opinion or tensions regarding the children as well. The children's studies are being affected, as the atmosphere at home is not good. So he said, no, not so. We've sent the children abroad for education. How does this manifest? If my Saturn transit isn't well placed from my fifth house, how are my children distant? It's because Saturn has activated the fifth house, being separative, and the 12th lord. When Ketu's period comes, Saturn looks at the second house. It's also for a good reason, because Saturn has directly activated the fifth house. And it is a separative planet, and also the 12th lord, which is showing us a static promise in the chart. Now further, when the time period and of Ketu came in Saturn, then Saturn is directly looking at the second house. Ketu is placed there. And we also discussed that this time period is not very favorable for the second house. When they came to me, When they came to me, they asked if the property dispute is due to Saturn and Ketu, as Ketu separates and is in my second house. Will it separate my property? Saturn is not well placed, not supporting us. The second house is active, causing a tug of war or discomfort. Saturn is not well placed, affecting us. Discomfort in property and finances is felt. The second house is completely activated, so this is the time when there is a tug of war, or you might be feeling some discomfort. You will feel this more in property matters and finances. And after that, you will feel a sense of separation. But Saturn and Ketu will definitely show you some back and forth and discomfort first. This chart is for a small child born in 2019. This chart was brought in to show specific questions or conditions. Their question wasn't quite like that. At that time, the transit of Saturn was from the Capricorn sign. Here, there's another principle of transit that looks very beautiful when we talk about events, specific events, and strong events. But now let's talk about the 8th house transit, when Saturn is sitting in the Capricorn sign. From which house is it the 8th? They are going from the 9th house to the 8th. Alright, moving on, we will discuss where Saturn has placed its third aspect. It has placed it in the 6th house. The 6th house is from the 11th house, so my 9th house zone has come into play, and my 11th house zone has come into play. Now, where has he placed the 7th aspect? In the 10th house, which is from the 3rd house, alright? And then he placed his 10th aspect on the ascendant. From the 6th to the 8th means that wherever Saturn is transiting, the 3rd, 6th, 8th, and 12th houses come into our danger zone. And what are our dasas and conditions? It's the child's dasha. Venus is in the moon's time, and the child is just a few months old. Can we see the situation of lost father? What happened is that Saturn is nicely going from the 3rd house. It's going from the 9th house. Alright? If you look at some static promises, it is indeed difficult where my 9th lord is with the Sun and Ketu. Ketu is not a good planet in itself, and neither the Sun is a good planet for the ascendant, nor for the 9th house. It is also a separative planet in itself. So, when Saturn touched these energies, which are related to the father's house or the 8th house, where the lord of the father is afflicted, that was the time when the father was not present in their life, and a child of just a few months lost his father. In some contexts, no questions arise about certain houses. For ages 40 to 45, specific houses may. Let's say, if this chart belonged to a native who is around 40 to 45 years old, then there would be activations in the 3rd, 7th, and 6th houses. And if there are activations according to the dasha, you can ask them questions regarding their work, their desires, their job, and their goals. Our question formation is based on the country, context, and time. So don't limit Saturn's transit to just the moon chart. Definitely look at it from the ascendant chart as well, which shows our karmic efforts or karmic results, where manifestation occurs on a physical level and we have to face it. The other conditions that I mentioned to you seem to be in place. We shouldn't be afraid of Saturn's earthy energies in the chart. Instead, we need to understand how we can tackle that time, how we can navigate through it, or how we can focus more on meditation or mentally prepare ourselves. We need to pay attention to all of that. I hope you learned something new. Thank you much.